Tonight is Laura's night to spend with someone else. Yes, someone else. She pretty much told me that herself. I couldn't miss those words. She told me after I saw some messages on her phone. She had left it on while she dealt with the kids. I noticed she was texting someone named S. It seemed strange, so I picked up her phone and took a look. It didn't take long for me to understand that my life and our family's life would be changing soon. That was a few months ago. It has been a tough time since then, and a lot has shifted in our lives. Tonight, Laura was dressed nicely and packed an overnight bag. She said goodnight to the kids and reminded them to behave for me, then glanced my way. She leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my head so she only kissed my cheek. I was still trying to accept that she was seeing another person. It made me feel like a failure. I know it's the 21st century, and people's views on relationships have changed, but I guess I still hold some old-fashioned views. As I came to terms with Laura seeing someone else, I went through many feelings of sadness and confusion. Eventually, I realized that I had to find a way to accept this. I'm not happy about it, not at all. My struggle is figuring out how to cope and what the future holds. More on that later. Let me introduce myself. I am Jason Fairburn, and my wife is Laura Staples. She chose to keep her last name after we got married. We have 2 daughters, Beth and Janie. The visit to the lawyer. Not long after finding out about Laura's new relationship, I decided to consult a lawyer. I needed to know what my options were. I arrived filled with anger and confusion. My lawyer listened to me vent and then asked some questions about Laura, our kids, and our life. Afterward, she took a deep breath and began explaining what divorce would mean for me. In Texas, divorce is considered no fault, which means you can't blame your spouse for infidelity. In fact, all states in the U.S. have similar laws. However, this often favors women, especially when children are involved. Unless the mother has serious issues, courts usually grant her custody along with financial support. In Texas family law, mothers often receive custody, the home, and financial help, while the father usually has limited visitation rights. This meant I would see my children less while my wife moved on with her life. As I faced this reality, I felt anxious about the little time I would have with my kids, who might slowly forget me as they got to know Laura's new partner. I asked my lawyer if I could just ask Laura to leave the house. She advised against it, warning me that doing so could lead to legal trouble and force me to leave instead. I felt stuck. My lawyer suggested a strategy I had heard of before, often called cheaper to keep her. The idea was that if I accepted Laura's relationship, I could still spend time with my kids and maintain my home. I tried to picture that, and it did have some benefits, but the thought of losing my kids and my home was too much to bear. I felt a chill run down my spine, realizing that being away from my kids and my home wasn't an option. Facing this reality forced me to think about how to live knowing that the woman I promised to love had decided that part of our marriage wasn't enough for her anymore. It felt like our vows were just words, easily changed. A few weeks later, after calming down and holding back my urge to confront Laura, I finally sat down with her to discuss our marriage. She remained calm during our talk. I poured myself a drink, and we sat at the kitchen table. I started, "I'm struggling to understand how we can stay married if you want someone else." "Jason, you don't understand. I'm still your wife and I still love you. This is just something I need that you can't give me right now." I shook my head, trying to contain my frustration. "What? Do you even realize how this makes me feel? I don't make you feel good anymore?" "No, that's not what I mean." "Well, it's what you just said." I raised my voice. "Jason, if you'll let me finish, I love you and I'll never keep anything from you." "Oh, well, thanks. That makes it all better. It's all fine now, isn't it?" My sarcasm came back. I turned away and went into the kitchen, wanting another drink. I opened a can and sat back down. Laura came over and placed her hands on my shoulders. "Jason, I've handled this all wrong. Let's go to the bedroom, and I can show you how much I care for you." "Why would you want to do that? You made it clear that I'm not enough for you. Why don't you go see your other partner? You might find that more fulfilling." I got up and walked away, unable to take any more. I wanted to break something, but instead, I went to the basement office and shut the door. So, my life with an unfaithful wife, who showed no regret, began. While she was out, I moved all of her things to the bedroom in the basement. I packed her belongings into a box and moved them to the bathroom near her new bedroom. When she got back the next morning, chaos followed. "Jason, what did you do with all my clothes?" she shouted. I took my time answering as she glared at me. "I figured that since you don't want to share a space, it's better we sleep separately. You can come and go as you like now." Silence filled the room, so I added, "You're welcome." I turned and walked away, saying, "Now you don't ever have to worry about any tension between us." Then the house felt colder. "Laura, what am I going to do now? I won't sleep in that spare bedroom." As soon as Jason left, I moved everything back where it belonged. The kids looked at me, confused, but I didn't stop until everything was in its place. Then I got busy making dinner. One of Jason's favorite meals is meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and peas. It's simple but comforting, just like him. When he got home, dinner was almost ready, and I asked him to get the kids cleaned up. He did that. At the table, the girls talked about their day. Jason listened to them but didn't look at me or say a word. After dinner, he cleaned up as usual. Once that routine ended, he went to our home office. I could hear him typing. I was already in bed when he came upstairs. He took his usual shower, brushed his teeth, and quietly got into bed, turning away from me with the light out. I tried to snuggle up and put my arm around him, but he moved it away. The following weeks were much the same. The mood in the house felt tense. I thought he would eventually come around when he felt ready. After all, we had a strong bond. He enjoyed our closeness, the warmth we shared. That's the kind of connection we have. Jason and I share quiet, private moments that strengthen our bond. When we are together, the way he holds me and looks at me shows how much he cares. Those tender moments build us up. I know he will want to experience that again. Jason will come around. I just have to be patient. He will realize that the short time I spend with Scott does not affect our marriage. Soon enough, he will be back by my side where he belongs. Jason, a few months later. I haven't been close to Laura in what feels like forever. My frustration has been building up. To manage the stress, I started getting up at 5 a.m. and going for a run. The first few days were tough. I thought I might collapse. My feet hurt, and my knees protested loudly. By the third week, things improved. My body adjusted, and I started to enjoy the calm early mornings. By the end of the second month, I was running over 6 miles a day. I lost a few pounds and felt better physically. Emotionally, it was a different story. I kept questioning myself. Could I accept Laura's choices and pretend it didn't matter? Could I move forward in our marriage and family? She is amazing when we are close, and I love the bond we share. But doubts lingered. I needed to find a way to move on. Laura Jason had been looking at me strangely lately. I couldn't understand his expression, and it made me anxious. One night, close to midnight, the door to our bedroom opened, and I saw Jason looking in. "Laura, are you awake?" "Yes." Jason hadn't talked to me much for a while. I wondered what he wanted. He didn't respond. He came in, quietly closed the door, and got into bed on his usual side. I stayed on my side out of habit. It felt like ages since we had shared a bed. Jason had a serious look on his face. I sat up a little as he reached for me and gently brushed my hair back. His hand moved to my shoulder, and he held me there for a moment, as if trying to bridge all the distance that had grown between us. I couldn't believe it. After all this time, Jason was reaching out again. I had missed him so much. Even though I had spent more time with Scott recently, nothing compared to how I felt for Jason. I had always been ready to give him all of myself without hesitation. I loved Jason with all my heart. Before Jason could say anything, I whispered, "I need you." He paused and looked into my eyes. In his gaze, I saw deep emotions, longing, fear, vulnerability. It shook me. Jason gently pulled the blanket aside. He turned me slightly and wrapped his arms around me. I could feel the strength in his embrace. It was like he was trying to reclaim our connection, needing to feel that we still belonged to each other. I understood what he needed. I wrapped my arms around him and held him tightly. It had been a long time, and we both needed to feel that we still belonged to each other. He was eager, but gentle. His movements showed more need than anger. We both craved this closeness. I put all my energy into showing him that I was present, that I was his. and that nothing could change the bond between us. We didn't need words, just the steady rhythm of two people finding each other again after a long time apart. Every touch and every breath brought us a little closer to healing. Jason was focused, and I matched his energy. I gave him everything I had to show him that he was loved and cherished. Finally, Jason rested his forehead against mine, holding me close as if he never wanted to let go. Our hearts beat in sync, and for the first time in a long while I felt complete again. He tells me how wonderful I am and how much he cares for me. He knows how to lift me up. But today, it was more about quick moments that didn't leave much room for connection. There are times for both closeness and excitement, but usually, I cherish the deeper moments with Jason more than the brief encounters with Scott. Lately, it seems Jason and I rarely find time for those moments because daily life with work, kids, and chores takes over. I long for more time together, moments of warmth and connection. This situation feels different. How do I navigate this? I assured Jason many times that I would never deny him anything after my relationship with Scott was revealed. Is this what he wants now? If so, I suppose I have to accept that my relationship with my husband is changing, but I still feel I need both of them in my life. I want them both. When Jason finished, he got up, went to the bathroom, and then returned, standing by the bed. He leaned in and said softly, "Don't ever bring your boyfriend here." After that, he put on his pajama pants, turned, and quietly left the room. Jason, the trailer. I had been thinking about this for a while. I wanted a trailer and a truck for camping. What did I have to lose by making this purchase? I imagined Laura would ask, "Why do you want a travel trailer?" My response would be, "Why do you want a boyfriend?" That would be hard for her to argue against. I took the kids to an RV show to look at travel trailers. They were excited about the idea. Beth and Janie were eager to go camping, and with each trailer we saw, they planned where their things would go and what we would do at parks. I had a budget, but that quickly became unimportant as I realized that a good trailer isn't cheap. Plus, I needed a truck to pull it, and those aren't cheap either. This left me with a choice. Should I go all in or try to save money? The girls pushed me to choose a quality option. After much thought, I decided to buy a used, 2-year-old, Grand Design Transcend model with bunk beds for the girls and a queen-size bed for me. It was well-equipped for comfortable camping, with 1.5 bathrooms, 2 televisions, and air conditioning. It was nearly 37 feet long. Now I just needed the right truck. I found a low-mileage, 2-year-old GMC 2500 HD crew cab Denali with a diesel engine being sold by an older couple. They could no longer travel for health reasons and wanted to spend more time with friends. I got a great deal on the truck. In total, I spent around $80,000 on the truck and trailer, hoping to create fun experiences with the kids and explore our country. I wanted Laura to see that this was an important time in our children's lives, and she could choose to be a part of it or not. If she opted out, she would end up missing out. Laura, a few months later after spending time with Scott. "So, Laura, you mentioned that your husband and kids went camping. Why didn't you go with them?" There was a long pause. "I don't know. I'm upset with Jason for getting that trailer." "So, you don't like camping?" "No, it's not that I dislike it. It feels like his way of controlling my choices." "What do you mean?" "He's unhappy about my time with you. I made it clear that I should have control over my own life." "But I thought you and your husband agreed that we could meet up." "Well, it wasn't exactly an agreement. I just told him I was meeting you. I don't see how it affects him." Scott chuckled. "I think I get it. He's probably frustrated because he feels you weren't honest. Did you discuss whether you would be exclusive when you married?" Laura paused to think. Scott continued. "So, you didn't tell him about meeting me beforehand?" "No. Jason didn't know." "So, how did he find out?" Laura took a deep breath. "He saw a text I had sent you on my phone. Then he found some things in my bag. He laid them out on the counter and asked, 'Who is S? And why do you have these here?' I knew I was caught, so I tried to brush it off." "What?" That was all I could say. That night we had our first serious disagreement. There was a lot of yelling and some harsh words exchanged. I made it clear that I am my own person and should be free to make my own choices about my life. "So, you surprised him. How did he react?" He just stood there, shook his head slowly, and then walked away. What did you do next? There wasn't much I could do. I came over here later that night. I remember now. So are you thinking about leaving your husband? Oh, no. I don't want to leave him. I love him, our kids, and our home. I cherish our life as it is. I don't want to change anything. Do you really think Jason will be okay with you getting close to someone else? He'll see that it won't change our relationship. Everything will stay the same. Scott thought about this. You might need to consider that again. I doubt your husband would be okay with you being involved with someone else. What do you mean? Well, if I were in his shoes, I wouldn't like that. Why would you think that? No one likes finding out their partner is involved with someone else, especially if they're committed. Does he agree to unusual arrangements? Would he want to see you with another person? Definitely not. Jason is not like that at all. So are you close with your husband? There was a long silence as Laura thought about it. No, not for quite some time. Another pause followed. That can't be good, right? What do you think? Do you believe your husband is fine with that? What can I do? I would love to reconnect with him, but he seems distant. Why do you think that is? Another long pause followed. What can I do to revive that connection? Maybe start by showing him small gestures of affection. Are you still sharing the same bed? No, he suggested I sleep in the spare room, but I didn't agree. Most nights, he stays there. Oh dear, that sounds concerning. Let me ask you again, do you plan to leave him? It seems that way from his point of view. What? No, I love him and our children. But doesn't that seem to be the case? Don't get me wrong, I enjoy our time together, but I'm not looking for a long-term commitment. You understand that, right? Yes, I do. You have a serious issue here. If you want to keep your family together, you need to act soon, or he may look for someone else. You might need to step back to focus on reconnecting with him. Do you really think that's what I should do? For someone smart, you sometimes miss the obvious. Yes, I think you should focus on your relationship with him. Showing him affection matters. If you've been warm with me, why not extend that to him? Laura stayed quiet for a while, thinking it over. Scott waited patiently and then asked, Do you value your family and the life you have now? Laura replied, Of course. Scott laughed gently. Would you like to live in a small apartment with little time to spend with your children? No. Why would that happen? Scott continued, You need to return to your husband, fix things, and hope it's not too late. Otherwise, you might find yourself needing a new place, as he could start looking for someone who will be there for him. Once Laura left Scott, she thought about whether she had pushed Jason away. She wasn't sure, but considered the idea of prioritizing her husband. Would he even accept that? Had she gone too far? Jason. I finished packing the trailer, and the girls were getting their things for our week-long camping trip to a park in the Carolinas. The weather looked nice, with little rain. I thought Laura wouldn't want to join us, so I planned without her. Once the girls were ready, we hopped into the truck and headed out. The week was fantastic. The weather was perfect for hiking, and we even spent a day at a water park, which the girls loved. To my surprise, the girls were not as upset about Laura's absence as I thought they would be. We talked about it, and they even mentioned that their mother had been spending less and less time with them. How could I explain that this distance was more about her choices than about them? Laura, I realized too late that Jason and the girls had left for their camping trip. A note on the kitchen counter read, We're camping for a week, back next Sunday. I called Scott to talk about what to do. They went camping. What now? Well, you've made some choices. You better hope your husband comes back with the kids. What if he doesn't? Then you'll need to act to keep your family. Good luck. Scott hung up. The week went by quickly, and the girls and I returned home Sunday night. I had to be back at work the next day, and I made plans for their summer activities for the week. Their mother could ask for some time off to help with drop-offs and pickups. We drove into the driveway, and I parked the camper in its usual spot. The girls jumped out to help me, as they always did. I was surprised when Laura came out to greet them. They hugged her before going inside with their dirty clothes. I worked with the camper, plugging it into the house power and disposing of the garbage. Laura stayed nearby, pretending to help. I'm glad you're all home. It's been quiet here all week, she said. I glanced at her while continuing my work. How was your week? I asked, but she didn't answer. Which campground did you go to? She asked again. What do you care? You don't like camping, I said. Just thought I'd ask. It was in North Carolina by a water park. The girls seemed to enjoy it. I went on with my tasks. After finishing with the trailer, I went inside, put away the dirty clothes, and started the washing machine. I then told the girls to freshen up while I made dinner. After taking a quick shower, I returned to the kitchen. Laura was there. I can help with that. I'll make dinner. She seemed different, almost as if she cared. That's okay, I'm making spaghetti with meatballs. I have everything from the trailer and it won't take long. I may have been a bit dismissive, not expecting much from her. I made dinner, and the kids gathered at the kitchen counter, sharing stories about their week. Laura was surprisingly engaged in the conversation. While we ate, I casually asked about her plans for the evening. She said she didn't have any. I wanted to talk about the following week and who would handle the drop-off and pick-up for the girls. After thinking it through, I decided I would take care of it all because Laura hadn't been dependable. I was taken aback when she unexpectedly offered to do the pickups every day. Will that mess with your plans? I asked. She looked at me and said, My family is my priority. You know that. I was surprised. For a while, it felt like we were an afterthought to her. I needed to find out what was really happening. Months later, life felt strange. I had an uneasy peace with Laura. I was clear that even though she was seeing someone new, I wouldn't push for a divorce because I was thinking of the kids. Family law in Texas doesn't seem to protect the innocent party. Laura seemed content with her life and didn't want to push things. We both wanted to avoid a situation that could tear us apart, especially for the children. And I decided to stay in the marriage until they were grown. When Laura told me about her new relationship, I put up some defenses. I had mentioned the travel trailer and the camping trips that Laura disliked. It was my way of showing that I wanted to keep my independence. But I felt I needed to do more. I wanted Laura to see that choices have consequences. Laura's routine changed since she began her new relationship. They spent time together a few times a week, doing things that were different from our family life. She had to figure out how to balance both parts of her life, and her relationship impacted how we interacted. The mood in our home was certainly different, and Jason was being very secretive about what he was doing when he was out. Jason's state law says that infidelity doesn't matter in divorce. Laura has that on her side if we decide to end things. The courts don't care about personal feelings at all. So when I chose not to go ahead with a divorce, I started to question my part in this new situation. If Laura could have a boyfriend with no consequences, then why couldn't I find someone too? It seemed fair. So little by little, I got involved in more social activities. It slowly paid off. There were many online dating sites, but I avoided those that looked risky. Call me careful, but I had kids to consider. I stuck with what felt safe. It took time, but I got back into doing things that felt good. I joined a cycling club, started running, learned to play an instrument, and took the kids camping whenever I could. As time went on, I met a few amazing women. We grew close and shared our stories, and they understood my family situation. They even helped me with dating. One of them introduced me to Diane. She is 3 years younger than me, divorced, and has a 4-year-old daughter. She is in the cycling club too, but I hadn't spoken to her much before we were introduced by another cyclist, Marilyn. Marilyn and Diane were good friends, and after a cycling event, Marilyn invited me for a drink at the pub the club members often visited. Usually I didn't go because I needed to get home for my kids, who had school the next day. I always handled the bedtime routine. Diane is an orthodontist. She's tall, has dark hair and blue eyes, and she has a great sense of humor. Her daughter, Matilda, looks just like her. Over the months, we got to know each other better and went on a few dates outside of cycling. I told Diane I was looking for friendship without commitment, and she felt the same way after her ex-husband left her and Matilda. Diane mentioned she had never gone camping in a trailer. Her parents preferred tents. After talking, I invited her and her daughter to join me and my kids for a comfortable camping experience. That's how it all started. Laura never wanted to camp. She would spend that time with her boyfriend. so I decided to spend that time with my new friend instead. I didn't tell Laura I was taking Diane and her daughter with us. I figured that if she didn't know, it wouldn't matter. If the courts didn't care, why should I? A year later, Jason, it's time. I've reached my limit. I need to sort things out and deal with long-standing issues. Life has felt out of balance for a while now. I was getting ready to fix things. I wanted to shake things up a bit. I knew that Laura didn't want to stay a loyal wife and mother, and I wanted to take my relationship with Diane seriously. After dinner on a Friday night, I poured a glass of wine for Laura and a beer for myself. I walked over and handed her the glass. She looked up at me and asked, "What? Are you in love with him? What do you want to talk about, sweetheart?" It's a simple question. Are you in love with him? Laura took a big sip of her wine and stared into the glass, avoiding my eyes. Come on, Laura. You know what's happening. You started this. It's time we face it. The kids were in the TV room. It was as good a time as any to have this discussion. I took a sip of my drink and continued, "So, how do we want to handle this? The easy way or the hard way?" "What do you mean, Jason?" "How long has it been?" "What are you talking about?" "How long have you been seeing other men while we were married?" "Why is that important now?" "How long did you think you could keep this going?" Laura took another big drink of her wine. "Did you think we could grow old together, but you would have someone else along the way?" She looked at me, confused. "Why do we need to talk about this now? We've been fine as we are. Why change anything?" I shook my head and sipped my drink again. "I have an idea of what you've been up to. Do you know what I've been doing?" "Well, you and the girls have been camping a lot, and you ride your bike often. I see you've been busy." "Yes, I have been busy. The girls and I have been spending more time together since I understood my worth to you. And yes, I've been making some new connections." Laura looked at me with mixed feelings, curious but unsure if she wanted to hear anything that might change her situation. She thought that if we divorced, I would suffer more, but that the kids would also be hurt, and she believed I would do anything to lessen the impact on them. That made her feel secure in her choices. She didn't realize that I had my own life too, and a plan of my own. "Laura, you didn't answer my question. Are you in love with him? Are you planning to keep him?" "Jason, I don't really have a boyfriend." I cut her off. "Please, stop avoiding the question. How long have you been with Scott? How many others have there been? Are those two girls mine? How much have you taken from me? You've been distant lately. You know it. I'm unhappy in our marriage, and you need to know that it's going to change." "What are you talking about?" "Enough with the sweet talk. To you, I'm just someone to take care of all the responsibilities. You go to your boyfriend for the fun. We haven't been close in ages, and I don't see that changing." Silence hung in the air. "It's time we take some action." Laura looked at me. "What do you mean?" "This is ridiculous. We need to face the truth. You should move out. I'm tired of feeling used." Laura looked up when I mentioned moving out. "I'm not leaving our house, Jason. That's just not going to happen." "Well, it seems to me you would rather be with your boyfriend than be part of this family. Decide what you really want." I stood up, finished my drink, and headed to the kitchen sink. My frustration was growing, and I felt like I was about to lose my temper. I needed to step away. I had made my point for now. I wanted to see how Laura would respond. "Laura, I need to find a lawyer to make sure Jason doesn't try to kick me out of the house. Why can't he just accept things as they are? I haven't kept anything from him, but he hasn't really approached me in a while. He doesn't seem interested. If I can't make him want me again, maybe we are done. If Jason and I divorce, I'll get the kids, the house, and part of his income to support our family. He won't do well if he tries to remove me. He probably won't want to leave. I believe I have an advantage here. I just need to be patient, and this will work out in my favor. It would be better if I could regain our closeness. I do care for him, but I also need Scott. He makes me feel alive when we're together. I can't seem to walk away from that. If I stay strong, it will work out. Jason knows that I'll eventually come back to him. This thing with Scott isn't forever. Jason and I will refocus on each other soon. Right now, I need to hold on to Scott as well." Jason. If Laura thinks I will accept her behavior forever, she needs to think again. It's time for some changes. I started working on our finances. I opened a new bank account for myself and moved half of our savings into it. I arranged for my salary and bonuses to go into that account. I would handle the house bills and make sure everything was fair. Laura needed to realize that our arrangement was changing. She would have to help with living costs. I didn't want to support her spending while she was with someone else. She needed to see how her decisions were affecting our situation. Laura. I didn't want Jason to find out that I had seen a lawyer. I spoke with a family law attorney about divorce laws in our state. We talked about child custody, support, and money matters. When she asked if I wanted to have the kids with me, I confidently said, "Of course." She wrote that down and asked about our finances. As I left her office, I felt uncertain about how well I could handle a custody battle against Jason. I wondered how tough it might get. Diane Jason called, and we made plans to go camping the next weekend. Matilda is excited about camping. She loves being in Jason's trailer. The three girls share the bunk beds in the back and talk and laugh long after bedtime. Jason and I stay in the front bedroom, usually keeping the door closed. Getting used to sharing the trailer took some time. After adjusting a few things, it felt more comfortable. We have many great memories together at my house or after biking events. I can't understand why Jason's wife is making such poor choices. She seems unaware of what a wonderful person he is. He is handsome, healthy, smart, talented, full of energy, and has a great smile and sense of humor. He truly brings happiness to me and the kids. It's clear he cares about others, unlike his wife. So, Laura's loss is my gain. I'm divorced from someone who didn't fully commit to being a father, and I have a lovely little girl who means everything to me. When I met Jason, he seemed to need support. Over time, I realized his wife was taking advantage of him, wanting everything without giving anything. My friend Marilyn introduced us and shared information about Jason's situation. Understanding some of our divorce laws, I saw he felt trapped. If he tried to leave, he might risk losing his kids, which he didn't want. So he stayed in the marriage until the girls grew up. I have a good job and wasn't looking for a serious relationship, but I wanted someone to enjoy time with and relieve some stress. Having Jason around has been great. Camping with him and his daughters is a bonus for my daughter and me. We have fun together. Matilda really connects with his girls who treat her kindly. Our longest trip was 9 days in Florida. We camped near Disney and had a great time at the park for 2 days, then enjoyed hiking and time on the beach. We returned home tired but happy. Jason said he appreciated the time we spent together, and his daughters clearly had fun too. We made plans for more adventures. Laura, I saw my lawyer again while Jason had the girls camping in Florida. He was gone for a week, so I took that time to learn about my rights regarding custody. My lawyer is Claire Barnett, who has worked in family law for over 20 years. I had some questions. Claire, last time we talked, you said if Jason divorced me, I would get the kids in the house and he would have to pay support. Yes, I remember discussing your family. Your priority should be having custody. Generally, courts tend to favor mothers, but there are exceptions. What do you mean? If your husband can show he's the better parent, the court might favor him for primary custody. It's not a guarantee that mothers always win custody. If a mother is seen as unfit for any reason, she might not get custody. There are cases when fathers gain custody justly. Laura, is there anything I should know that might impact your chances? No. What aren't you telling me? It's important to be honest so I can help you. Well, Jason spends a lot of time with the girls, but I do too. Can you tell me more about that? Jason often takes the girls camping and to their school events. Do you go with them? I don't enjoy the outdoors that much and miss many school events because my job keeps me busy. Claire raised an eyebrow, recognizing that I might not be completely honest. Family law courts carefully look at parenting responsibilities, and it was clear Jason's dedication would be shown by his lawyer, contrasting with my absence. Claire realized she had more work to do. The court would not care about my personal life or about Jason's situation. What mattered was who could provide the best care for the children. My lack of involvement might put Jason in a better position. Claire knew she needed to guide me on some important changes. Laura, I need to be honest with you. What? Let me be clear. If you don't become a more involved mother, your chances of getting custody in a divorce case are low. What? Are you seeing someone else right now? Well, that's a simple yes or no question. Uh, yes, I am. How much time do you spend with him? We only meet a few times a week. How much actual time is that? In hours? And at what times? Not a lot. Claire raised her hand to stop me. If you're not totally honest with yourself and me, you can pretty much forget about custody of your kids. Now, how much time do you actually spend with your boyfriend? I began to give Claire a clearer picture of the time I spent with Scott. Claire winced slightly as she wrote notes. This wasn't looking good. She understood that during a custody battle, I might seem to have neglected my family. This was cause for concern. Jason. All right, it's time to tell my wife about what's been happening. It was Saturday night, and the kids were just getting to bed after a busy day. I went to the refrigerator, grabbed a beer, and brought out a bottle of wine for Laura. She looked at me, remembering that whenever I had important things to talk about, I would pour her a glass of wine. She cleared her throat and said, "It's a bit late for a beer, isn't it?" "It's only 9 o'clock. I need to talk to you about a few things." "What things?" she asked. "I want to talk about our marriage and how we handle it. We need to clearly define what each of us is responsible for." "What do you mean?" she replied. "I mean, we need to understand our daily tasks better. I made a list and I think you'll want to add to it. Let's go through it." Laura took a sip of her wine and I took a sip of my beer as I pulled out the notepad where I had written some notes. First, we need to discuss our finances. We should agree on how much each of us contributes to household expenses. I know you weren't happy about some of my recent purchases, so those are my responsibility, but taking care of the house and the kids is something we share. I paused for a moment to let that sink in. I think it would help to create a simple budget. Laura looked at me like she just realized something important. I shared what I thought was a fair way to split our expenses. I didn't plan to pay for her outside relationship, and I wanted her to see that, since I handled all the bills, I couldn't support everything while she was otherwise engaged. We talked long into the night. By the time I yawned and stretched, it was after 1 a.m., and I told Laura I was ready to wrap things up. I left all the papers on the table, including our bills and financial documents, and went off to take a shower and get some sleep. Jason wants us to split our finances and have each of us pay half of the household bills. He knows I don't earn as much as he does. When I mentioned this, he suggested I find a better-paying job, as if that were easy. This is all connected to the time I've spent with someone else. It feels like everything is falling apart because of this. 4 days later, lawyer Claire asked, "So, Laura, why did you want to meet so urgently? Are you thinking about divorce?" "No, but last Saturday night he wanted to talk about our family finances and suggested we each pay 50% for running the house." Claire looked surprised. "Tell me what you two talked about." Laura shared her long conversation with Jason from that Saturday night. Claire asked several questions and took notes. It was clear Laura had only shared part of what was happening and wanted to downplay her involvement with someone else. It seemed Laura had been seeing someone for almost 3 years. Jason discovered it 2 years ago and, after consulting a lawyer, realized he might be supporting her relationship while possibly losing custody of their children. I often told male clients in similar situations about the reality of infidelity. From what Laura shared, it sounded like Jason was preparing a separation agreement. This is a legal document that outlines responsibilities before a divorce. It's often the first step toward breaking down financial and family matters. For Laura and her husband, the main issues were their 2 daughters, who would have primary custody and who would stay in the house. Laura was weakening her case for custody, as she was focused more on her new partner than on spending time with her kids. Family courts take parenting very seriously. Jason was quietly building his case for custody and seemed to be making good progress. I tried to explain to Laura that her situation was getting risky. Jason was gathering evidence for the court, showing that they were living separate lives, with each contributing to household expenses. Since Jason earned more than Laura, he could support the children even if they were separated. "Laura, I need to win Jason back. He must be feeling confused. We haven't been close in months. If I can show him that this new relationship doesn't mean as much as our marriage, maybe he will realize we still have something special. I want to remind him of our bond and rekindle our connection." Laura has been showing signs that she still wants to be close. The idea of getting back together seems strange. I have no desire to reconcile after learning about her other relationship. After the girls went to bed, she gave me looks that hinted she wanted to be closer. Right now, I just want her to focus on the children and keeping the house in order. The rest feels like a business arrangement. When the girls grow up and go to college, I plan to end this tough chapter with Laura. She can move on, and I won't have to deal with her choices anymore. Time passes. A few months later. Jason, I've had enough. I've been thinking about how to finally end this difficult relationship. Whatever happens, I can't keep living like this. Diane and I are planning our future together, which means I need to face my situation with Laura. I need to take action. I decided to visit Scott. I knew where Scott worked and lived, so I thought it was necessary to have a clear talk about his connection with Laura. On a Wednesday evening around 6 p.m., I saw Scott leaving work. He was on his phone, and when he saw me, he dropped it and mumbled something. "You should pick that up. You don't want to lose it," I said, noticing he was watching me closely as he picked it up. "I'm not here to cause trouble. Quite the opposite. We need to talk," I said. I pointed to my car. "Get in. Let's go somewhere and talk about things that need clarity." He hesitated, but finally got in the passenger seat. I drove him to a pub I hadn't visited in a while, making sure I wouldn't run into anyone I recognized. After we parked, we headed inside and found a quiet table. I ordered a drink and suggested he do the same. I could see he was nervous. After a moment of silence, I took a sip of my drink, ready to speak. I wanted to handle this situation carefully, without letting my frustration get the best of me. "Okay, we need to sort a few things out." He looked anxious. "Relax. This could turn out okay for you. I have some questions, and I want honest answers. How long have you and Laura been together?" He hesitated before answering. For a while now." "How long is a while?" He gulped. "For just over 3 years." I took this in, relieved because it confirmed my own thoughts about the situation. "Why did you and Laura start seeing each other?" Scott looked at me as if surprised. I added, "It's not that difficult of a question. How did you two first connect?" "We met and talked. She said she was having a hard time with her marriage and feeling bored. You and she were just focused on work, kids, and chores. We planned to grab a drink, and it went from there." He looked a bit ashamed saying this. "It went from there." I took a deep breath, preparing for my next question. "Do you both have feelings for each other? After being involved for a while, have those feelings grown?" He avoided eye contact. I continued, "Please, just be honest with me. I'm not here to tell you what to feel about her. We're beyond that now." Scott took a big drink, gathering his courage. "For me, it's complicated. I do have feelings for Laura, but not so much that I want her to leave you. I like what we have. I'm not ready to settle down with just one person yet." "How many others are you seeing?" When someone avoids your gaze while answering, it usually means the answer isn't good. I was pretty sure I knew what it was. "You're not exclusive with her, right?" He shook his head. I leaned back in my chair, thinking. It seemed Laura was hoping that Scott would be there for her if things turned sour with me. Learning that Scott wasn't just with her would make everything messier, but that wasn't my concern. "Well, be ready if she shows up at your door with her bags. You may not see it, but being involved with someone else's partner has consequences. Just because you see her regularly doesn't mean there won't be a price to pay. You can keep doing what you want. I won't tell Laura what she can or can't do or who she can be with. But I might take other steps, and those might not be what you want. Right now, I'm focused on my issues." I stood up and left $40 on the table. As I turned to walk away, I told him, "You should be careful in dark places." Then I walked out. Laura, I needed to leave the house. I went to Scott's apartment. He carefully let me in, checking the hallway to make sure I was alone. We spent a few hours together, but it felt rushed. It seemed like Scott was distracted. He soon made an excuse about needing to see his doctor and hurried me out into the hallway. Jason. A week after my talk with Scott, I decided it was time for the next step of my plan. My lawyer had finished the paperwork and was set to deliver it to Laura. I wanted it to come to my house to avoid any awkwardness. I had all the proof I needed to request full custody of the girls. Diane was quietly waiting in the background while I figured things out. We had grown close, and I really cared for her. She's a joy to be around. Her humor makes me laugh, and I focus on keeping her and the kids happy too. We have a great time together. Could we be a family? I wasn't sure, and I knew that answer would come after my divorce from Laura and some time apart. I made it a point to speak to Laura in the evening after the girls went to bed. I handed her a glass of wine, knowing something serious was about to happen. "Tomorrow, stay home in the morning. You'll get a delivery," I said. "What?" "You know what it is." She leaned back, sighing. "I was afraid this might happen. Why do you need to do this? Can't we just figure out our separate lives for a while? Why does it have to come to this? You started this. You knew I wouldn't just accept you having someone else on the side, but you also knew that the courts don't really care about matters of the heart. With 2 children in the picture, you hoped the courts would side with you, assuming I would be the one to face loss while you moved ahead. All I wanted was a partner who valued our family enough to stay true to it, but you chose a different path. Now it's time to see what happens next. I needed to stay calm, so I stood up, walked to the refrigerator, and grabbed a drink. My heart was racing, and I could feel my cheeks get warm. I poured the drink into a glass and returned to the table. It was better to discuss this now than to let it build up and cause more issues later. "Jace, I will fight you on this divorce. I love you and our family." I raised my hand. "Your love has shown itself in a confusing way. Your choices tell a different story, and I can't ignore that. Your actions speak louder than words." She looked at me. "You know I'll get custody of the girls, and you'll see them just once a week and maybe some weekends. You'll have to help support us living here. I know you don't want that. Please stop this divorce. You and I can fix everything, and we can be a couple again. I know you want that. 18 months ago, yes, I wanted that, but not now. You've done too much to harm our relationship. Let me ask you this. Are you willing to give up your other commitments?" A heavy silence followed my question. "Why can't we find a way to make this work? I can spend time with the girls, and you can still do what you enjoy. I'd even go on outings with you and the girls. You'd like that, right? I know the girls would." I could feel my anger rising. "Would you? It seems like you want to negotiate only when things are tough for you. Why do you want to join us now?" "I don't want to lose our family over something that isn't as important as it seems. My time spent elsewhere doesn't take away from you. You enjoy time with the kids and they love it. You know that? Don't lose them just because I spend a little time doing other things." I wanted to say more, but I couldn't share the plans that my lawyer had laid out. "Laura, I used to care for you deeply, but when you chose to invest in someone else, you knew there would be consequences." "Oh, Jace, I don't care for him like that. It's just something I do now and then. I love you and our children. You're my family. If you'd come back to me, I could show you how much you mean to me. Do you care enough to let go of those other commitments?" No response. Laura was focused on her hands. "I thought not. I see where we stand. Good night." I went to bed. Laura Jason was up early, getting the girls ready for school. We didn't speak before they left. The girls barely looked at me and didn't say goodbye as they rushed out the door. I had 1,000 thoughts racing in my mind until the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a middle-aged woman in casual clothes, holding some kind of ID badge. "Good morning, are you Laura Staples?" "Yes, I am." "Could I see some identification, please?" I went back inside, grabbed my driver's license, and handed it to her. She took a photo of it before giving me a large brown envelope. "You've been served." Before I could say anything, she snapped a photo of me holding the envelope and walked away. For a moment, I stood on the front step, staring at the envelope, realizing I had just received divorce papers. This was really happening. I went inside, placed the envelope on the dining table, and sat down to look at it. For a moment, I thought that if I didn't open it, it wouldn't be real. Jason couldn't possibly want to end our marriage. I imagined us being together as the girls grew, doing the things we discussed after we got married. My time away hadn't affected our family life. Why did this have to get so serious? Maybe it was a mistake to share too much with Jason. I should have kept it to myself. Now look where we are. I need to call Claire and talk to her. Claire, Laura's lawyer. When Laura Staples came to see me, clearly upset, I understood that her husband had decided to move forward with the divorce. From what I could see, he had been very patient with her. As I reviewed the divorce papers prepared by his lawyer, the case for custody looked strong. Her husband had carefully documented her absences since learning about her other commitments, showing many times when she should have prioritized her family. There were school events, family outings, daily routines, and special occasions that illustrated a pattern making Laura seem absent as a parent. It highlighted her choice to spend evenings and weekends elsewhere, creating a troubling picture. It listed names of people, mostly friends of Jason and Laura, who had seen her out and about with someone else. There were even pictures taken by people showing Laura and this man in public together. The photos had been shared with Jason through various means. Laura was in a tough spot. She sat quietly in the chair at my table as I reviewed the paperwork. I thought about the questions the family court judge might ask and how Laura would respond. It would be interesting to hear how Laura would explain her choices. It wasn't just about her involvement with the other person. It was about how she seemed to neglect her children and husband to spend time with him. That behavior was going to lead to real trouble for her. I prepared to tell Laura that she would likely face significant challenges, and it might be best for her to agree with some of her husband's requests. We could talk about smaller things like the furniture, her jewelry, some savings, her car, and a few other items, but overall, Jason wanted to make sure the children were okay and that they had stability. The rest were minor details for him. "Laura, have you read this divorce paper?" She hesitated. "I skimmed it, but I don't remember the details. How can I stop this divorce? Jason and I, with our kids, we're a family and I want to keep it that way." I started to think that Laura wasn't fully grasping what was happening. Jason had the upper hand in this situation, and I would need to work hard to help her catch up. "Laura, I need to talk to your husband's lawyer before I can give you any specific advice. Remember when we discussed what the courts look at when deciding who gets custody of the kids? From what I see here, I'm not sure you'll get what you want. Staying married to Jason isn't likely to happen." "What do you mean?" "I can't lose him. He's the father of my kids. We're married. He can't just leave and abandon us." Her voice was filled with outrage. I leaned in a bit closer and looked her in the eyes. "You seem to have forgotten what we talked about. The law allows divorce even if you don't want it. It's clear that Jason is serious about ending the marriage, and he wants to take the children with him." Laura sank back in her chair. "It's Scott, right? Jason is jealous of Scott." "Did you really think he wouldn't be? You've been seeing Scott and ignored your family. Did you think Jason wouldn't mind? How do I fix this?" "There is no fixing this. It's about making sure you don't lose everything. What did you think would happen?" Laura didn't respond. She seemed to be avoiding the reality of her choices. "Jason wants you to move out of the family home by the end of the divorce process. There is a 60-day period in Texas where all financial and child-related matters need to be worked out. Once you both agree on the details and sign, the court might grant the divorce. Otherwise, it can take longer." "Can I ask for counseling?" "You can, but that needs to start during the 60-day period and finish before 120 days. Do you think that might change Jason's mind?" Laura sighed. It was becoming obvious to her that Jason was ready to move on. I guessed he had a good lawyer helping him plan. "Laura, I'll ask for a meeting with Jason and his lawyer later this week so we can understand his position and see what we can do." "Okay. What should I do now?" "Go home. Spend time with your kids and try to talk to Jason. You're both still living together, right?" Laura nodded. "Try to communicate with him if you can. Otherwise, there isn't much else to do." She stood up and slowly walked out. My assistant Jackie came in. "She seems overwhelmed. I take it that didn't go well?" "She's in a tough situation." I handed her the paperwork Laura brought and asked her to reach out to Jason's lawyer to set up a meeting soon. "Jason." My phone was mostly quiet all day. I expected Laura to contact me about reconsidering the divorce. Just as I was about to leave my office, my lawyer called to say that Laura's lawyer wanted to meet urgently. I agreed, eager to move forward quickly so I could focus on my future. They would follow up with a date and time, and I was told to keep my contact with Laura to a minimum and avoid anything that might seem threatening. When I got home, I noticed Laura's car in the driveway. I walked in and saw the kids with their mother, who was helping them with their homework. They looked at me as if to say, "What is she doing?" I didn't say anything to Laura. Instead, I talked with Janie and Beth and started making dinner for us while Laura set the table. Dinner was mostly the girls chatting about their plans for the week. Everything seemed normal except Laura was present. She wasn't lost in her work as she usually was since she had spent the afternoon out. After the kids went to bed, I went to the home office to finish some tasks and send a few emails. Laura appeared at the door. "Jason, can we talk?" "It's a bit late for that now, isn't it?" "I don't want a divorce. I want us to be a family like we should be." "It's a bit late for that now, isn't it?" "How can I show you that I love you?" "It's a bit late for that now, isn't it?" "Why won't you talk to me, Jason? Are you really not aware? I've tried to reach out to you so many times over the last 2 years, and you've just ignored me and our children. Now I need to think about what I want. I want us to go to counseling. So you can just delay the inevitable, and then we move forward with the divorce? I don't think so. You can see all the counselors you want, just not with me." Her voice became pleading. "Jason, we can't divorce. It will impact the kids." I interrupted. "Oh, that's a good one. You didn't consider how your choices would affect the kids while you were with Scott. It showed how self-focused you are, Laura." I was nearly shouting. "My what? Oh, for goodness sake! Go see that therapist. The sooner the better. Better yet, I think you should pack a bag and go stay with Scott. Just get away from me." I pushed past Laura and went to the bedroom where I'd been sleeping for months. A hot shower sounded good, so I went to the bathroom. While under the warm water and trying to clear my mind, I saw the door opening. Laura was standing there. "What are you doing?" "Please, Jace, let me in. We're a family. I need you." I raised my hand. "Just stop. You've taken me and the kids for granted for too long. Now that it's been brought up, you're trying to make things right. Please leave." Laura paused, then turned and left. After my shower, I got dressed and checked on the kids. I saw that Laura's car was gone. An hour later, the doorbell rang, and my phone buzzed with a text. It was annoying since it was bad timing. I looked at my phone and saw 3 messages from Laura. Great. "Scott, baby, who is it?" Marie asked. "A friend. I'll let them know this isn't a good time. Stay here and I'll handle it." I quickly put on some shorts, grabbed my phone, and went to the kitchen. I wasn't supposed to see Laura until Thursday. Why was she here? I picked up the phone. "Hello?" "It's me, sweetie." "What's going on?" "Open the door." I hesitated, trying to think of what to do. I had been dating Marie for a few months, and things had been going well. Laura showing up unexpectedly was not helpful. I knew her marriage was in trouble, but I hadn't planned on ending things now. "Now is not a good time. Can I call you in the morning?" "Scott, I just need to come in and talk to you." I then heard others entering the building, followed by Laura saying, "Oh, thanks," before the call ended suddenly. Someone must have let her in. 3 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. "Scott, it's me. Let me in, please." Marie came out of the bedroom looking curious. "What's going on?" I had to think quickly. "It's an old girlfriend. I have no idea what she's doing here." "Are you going to open the door?" Reluctantly, I went to the door, peeked through the peephole, and unlocked it. When I opened the door, Laura walked in with her overnight bag. She saw Marie and froze. Marie realized what was happening and quietly went back to the bedroom to get dressed. Moments later, she hurried out, putting on her coat. "Don't bother calling me," she said as she left. That ended abruptly. Laura watched Marie leave, then turned to me. "Who is she?" I shook my head. "What do you want, Laura?" She placed her bag down and looked around, noticing the dishes from the meal Marie and I had shared. The truth hit her. I changed into some jeans and a shirt and got a drink from the refrigerator. Laura sat on the sofa. "Why are you here tonight? We weren't supposed to meet until Thursday." And then she realized. "Your husband kicked you out, didn't he?" She nodded slowly. "And you thought you could stay here," I said, feeling tired of the situation. What a mess. "What do you want?" "Can I get a drink?" I went to the kitchen and got her a glass of wine that I knew she liked. I handed it to her and she took a big gulp. "He's divorcing me." "Oh, he told me he doesn't want me to be his wife anymore. Can you blame him? You and I have been involved for a while. I'm surprised he dealt with everything for this long. What happened to your plan to fix things?" "He wouldn't even talk to me. He said he didn't want anything to do with me." "Well, you are in quite a situation." I could be quite witty when I wanted to be. So what are you doing here? Why did you come to me? Marie wasn't happy, by the way. That seems finished. Laura spent the night with me. Marie was gone, so I figured I might as well enjoy Laura's company. She was always fun to be with. Jason. When I got up in the morning, Laura wasn't home. That was okay. Soon she would be out for good if I got what I wanted in the divorce. After I took the girls to school and went to my office, I got an email from my lawyer. She had received a request from Laura's lawyer for a meeting later this week to talk about the divorce. Things were moving in the right direction. I needed to hire someone to help with the kids after school. I had a lady in the neighborhood who worked 3 afternoons helping the kids with snacks and homework. I needed to speak to my company about doing more work from home since my job was flexible. 2 days later, Laura still hadn't come home, but I noticed more of her things were missing from her bathroom and closet. I figured she was staying with her boyfriend, but I didn't care. The girls didn't even ask where she was. I was surprised she hadn't called to talk to them. I called her parents. They weren't aware anything was wrong with our marriage. When I asked them if she was with them, they wanted to know why she would be. I brushed it off, saying Laura was busy and would tell them about everything soon. I needed to end the call before they could ask more. I wanted Laura to explain things to her family, not me. The next night, no Laura again, but her mother, Susan, was at the front door. After she greeted her granddaughters, she sat down at the kitchen table and looked directly at me. She asked, "What is going on?" I spoke to her for almost 2 hours, sharing the entire story of our marriage over the last 3 years. She had many questions, and by the end, she looked at the floor and apologized for Laura. I didn't want an apology from her or George. What I really wanted was for Laura to acknowledge how she had let our family down. 3 days had passed with no sign of Laura. It was time to see Scott. I knew where he lived and what he did for a living. I waited for him by his car as he came out of his building. When he saw me leaning on the hood, he paused and seemed surprised. I waved him over and said, "Come on, I'm not here for you. I'm guessing Laura is with you." He sighed and replied, "Yeah, she is. Are you here to take her home?" "No, I just want to know where she is and if she is okay." He looked down and said, "I was hoping you were here to take her home. I really don't want her living with me all the time." His response caught me off guard and seemed a bit cold. "What? I thought you two were close. We had some good times. At first I thought you were okay with her seeing another guy. But when I learned you weren't in agreement, I told her to go back home and be nice to you if she wanted to keep her family. I was under the impression that she did that. But now I see she hasn't. Well, she's all yours now. But I don't want her. Why not? She enjoys your company. I just don't want her all the time." I pressed him a bit more. "Why not? It seemed like she liked being with you." Scott grew frustrated and shouted, "I don't want her. Get her out of my apartment." I smiled and said, "Nope, she's all yours." I stood up to leave. "Please," he exclaimed. "I can't deal with this." Looking at him, it was clear he felt overwhelmed. "You should have thought of that earlier." I walked to my car and got in. As I started the engine to leave, I turned down the window and said, "Tell her to come home. Her children are worried, and her mother wants to talk to her." Then, I drove away. The next day, while I was working from home, I heard the door unlock. It was Laura. I waited until she was in the kitchen before saying, "Come back for more of your things?" She looked surprised. "Jason, I didn't know you'd be here. I didn't see your car. I'm working from home today." Laura didn't say anything further and just stood there. I asked, "What did you come to get?" "I thought I might come home if that's okay." "Well, I guess Janie and Beth are wondering where you've been. I thought you were with someone else." I added, "Your mother came by. She has some things to say and a lot of questions for you." Her eyes widened at that. "My mother? What did she want?" "She was curious about why you left." "What did you tell her?" "The truth." So my lawyer and I met with Laura and her lawyer. My lawyer suggested I let her do the talking since she needed to explain her side. We were meeting in my lawyer's office to discuss custody and other details. It should have been simple. When I arrived, Laura and her lawyer, Claire, were already there. My lawyer reminded me of our plan and advised me to let Laura speak first. Just as my lawyer began discussing the separation, Claire interrupted. "Can we pause for a moment?" Laura wants to say something important. Jace, I don't want a divorce. What can we do to get back to being a family? I care about you and the girls deeply. I only want to be with you. I wanted to protest, but my lawyer stopped me, encouraging me to let her talk. Laura continued, My time away was only to relieve stress. Our marriage had its challenges, but I didn't mean for it to be like that. It was a chance for me to clear my head. I came back feeling better each time. I couldn't believe she thought stepping away made her a better person. It was confusing. She seemed to expect me to accept her choices without question. Laura looked at me with a pleading gaze while I felt a mix of disbelief. My lawyer cleared her throat, signaling it was time to address the real issues. Everyone, let's focus on the core matters of this divorce. Claire nodded, and the negotiations began. I tuned out the back and forth between the lawyers. I was ready to take this to court if Laura didn't agree to my terms. I wanted custody of the kids and the house. Nothing else mattered. Laura could keep the bank accounts and the cars. If she chose to leave the family, she would have to face the consequences. The lawyers continued their discussions, and by the end, Laura was convinced by her lawyer to sign the agreement. Claire showed how little time Laura had spent with our family over the past years. This made her realize that going to court might not end well for her, so she reluctantly agreed to the divorce terms. I just wanted to make sure my daughters were affected as little as possible. Laura. At first, I refused to sign the divorce papers that Jason wanted. I wanted my family, and I wasn't going to accept anything less. Why did he have to be so stubborn? What I did while I was away from him didn't affect the kids. Jason didn't give up anything while I was away. Why couldn't he let me have just a little bit for myself? Claire told me that if this went to court, the judge would likely side with Jason and give him custody of the girls. I couldn't believe Jason would actually want to take the girls away from me. Why would he do that? Claire said she had tried hard to get a better deal for me, but this was about as good as it would get. Prolonging things wouldn't help, and if I tried to delay, the court would settle it quickly. If I wanted any control over my life, it needed to be resolved now. I sat and cried for what felt like hours. I struggled to focus on the papers while Claire pointed out where I needed to sign. I signed away my marriage, my children, and the family and home I held dear. I was signing away my life. Jason. I was surprised when my lawyer called to say the signed documents were coming back by courier that afternoon. Laura's lawyer, Claire, told me that Laura had agreed to the divorce. I accepted that Laura could have plenty of time with the kids, but they would live with me in our house. Laura had until the final divorce date to move out. I agreed to equally divide our money, and she would receive half the value of the house by our youngest child's 18th birthday plus 6 months. She would need to contribute $100 each month for the girls' education account, adding up to $2,400 a year. We had already set up this fund, and I had contributed $500 each month since their birth. I wanted to ensure they could go to any college or university they chose. Laura could keep her car and choose any furniture she wanted from the house. I didn't care about material things. I even offered to buy bunk beds for the girls to use at Laura's new place. My main goal was to keep the peace in our lives and reduce stress. The uncertainty about our family situation was hard to handle. At least now I could approach life in a more organized way. Laura could move on and focus on her relationship with the girls. However, if the girls didn't want to spend time with her, I wouldn't force them. I'd seek legal help to adjust our agreement if needed. 60 days later, I received a call from Claire, letting me know that the final divorce papers were back from the court. I was officially no longer married to Jason. It felt strange. Everything was changing too quickly, and I wished things could stay the same. What was upsetting was that I had to leave the house without finding a new place to live. I hadn't told my family about the divorce. My brother Scott had said he couldn't take me in, and I had been counting on him for support. I needed to talk to Jason. Maybe he could help. I walked to the home office where he was working. Jace, can we talk? What do you want to discuss? Where am I going to go? I don't have anywhere to stay. Can't I stay here a little longer? Jason looked at me with confusion. Laura, you've had weeks to find a place. What about your boyfriend? I hesitated before answering. He can't take me. Why not? I thought you had a good relationship. He shook his head and turned away, moving toward the kitchen. Jason had filled the living room with boxes, things he had packed for me to take. I felt lost and overwhelmed by everything. Jason. It was clear that Laura hadn't realized the importance of our divorce. She had put off looking for a new place and ignored her lawyer's advice. I needed to remind her that she had until midnight to leave the house. I knew she wouldn't do what was expected. I started clearing out the master bedroom, taking apart the bed and sorting her things. I moved lamps and tables to the hallway, getting ready to move them to the garage. Laura, do you want this stuff? If so, you need to act. Otherwise, it's leaving this house. She looked surprised as I continued packing. Please get moving. If you want any of this, you need to take charge. Otherwise, it will be gone. After a while, I saw her making phone calls. I wasn't sure who she was calling, but she made 3 calls before my phone rang. It was her father. Jason, what's going on? Laura told me you're making her leave the house. What is happening? I interrupted him. George, did Laura tell you everything? That's not the point. Why would you make her leave her home? It's a complicated situation, George. I can explain more if you and Susan come over. It will take a bit of time to cover everything you'll want to know. He agreed to come over within the hour. I then sought out Laura. Are you going to tell your parents the truth about what's been happening, or should I? The look on her face showed she hadn't told them about the divorce. They were going to be shocked. As I went to get my paperwork, I heard the door slam and Laura's car speed away. I guessed she was heading to Scott's apartment. An hour later, George and Susan arrived, and I took some time to explain Laura's situation. I showed them the divorce papers and the final agreement we had worked out. They both had a couple of drinks to help digest the news of the end of their daughter's marriage. To say they were disappointed would be an understatement. Their feelings were very strong. They looked at the boxes piled in the living room and asked me what I planned to do. I told them my goal was simple: take care of my children, organize my home, and adjust my work schedule. Beyond that, I didn't have any specific plans. Susan asked if there was any way I could forgive Laura and keep our marriage. I explained that I had tried many times in the last 3 years, but every time I asked Laura to think again, she declined. It was clear to me that her refusal showed what was truly important to her. Her family wasn't a top priority. I asked if they would take Laura in. They both shook their heads. George said very seriously, "She got into this mess. She needs to get out of it herself." They wished me well and said I could ask for help with the kids any time. I thanked them, and they left. I called Scott. When he picked up, I said, "Put her on the phone." After a brief pause, I heard, "Hello. Your parents just left. You might want to give them some space because they are quite upset." I waited for her to respond, but she didn't say anything. I continued, "What will you do about your things? I'm moving your stuff to the garage. If you don't move it by next week, I will give it all away. It's up to you." Then I hung up. If she doesn't understand that we're divorced, she needs to talk to someone. I knew her plan. Ignore everything she didn't want to face, hoping everyone else would give in and let her life continue as it was. A week later, I called a moving company. They packed what I thought Laura would want. I stored it temporarily, hoping she would eventually tell me where to send it. Laura had been staying with Scott, who called me every day asking if she could come back home. I kept saying, "She doesn't live here anymore." The first time he hung up frustrated. Scott came to my office wanting to talk. He insisted I needed to do something about Laura. She was at his apartment and wouldn't leave. She hadn't worked for days and was often unresponsive. "You have to come talk to her," he urged. "That's not my problem anymore. You wanted her. Now you deal with her," I replied, getting in my car and driving away. I did call Laura's parents and suggested they see her and encourage her to seek help. She was struggling and needed support. After that, I went home to my daughters to prepare dinner. 1 year later, "Come on, girls. We need to go." It has been tough adjusting to a new routine, reorganizing the house and selling it. The new place is different and has a pool in the backyard. We also have a big driveway for our cars. You might have noticed I said cars. After my divorce, I met a woman named Diane. We started spending time together. We enjoy the same activities and we connect well, so I asked if she and her daughter, Matilda, would like to move in with us. After a week of thinking about it, Diane agreed. We talked and decided that, while I wasn't seeking a long-term commitment yet, living together made sense for us financially. She packed up, sold her house, and moved in. So far, it has been great. Diane and I share responsibilities and have a solid relationship. Matilda treats me like a father, and she loves story time. Beth and Janie play with her and often read to her at bedtime. We've traveled a lot in the camper. I make sure to find new places and activities for us to enjoy. It's been wonderful. I don't plan to rush anything by proposing right now. The sad part is that Laura sees her daughters only about once a month. She moved to an apartment near her job, and aside from her brief messages wanting to see the girls, that's it. They spend just a few hours with her before coming back home. I try to reassure them that their mother's absence isn't their fault. I might think about getting professional help for them, but we will see. Matilda is a positive distraction for Beth and Janie. The three of them have a lot of fun together. Diane, Jason, the three girls, and I are a family now. He is easygoing and fun to be with. I look forward to every day with him. The kids all get along well, so everything works. We love to go out in the camper to parks with activities. The girls enjoy hiking, riding bikes, and playing at the campground. It's nice to see them exploring freely without everything being too planned. When we camp, we feel relaxed. The best part is spending quality time with Jason when the kids are in bed. We enjoy talking and sharing moments of closeness that we both appreciate. I can't believe Laura gave him up by ignoring him. She was so focused on herself that she forgot he needed her attention too. She wanted everything for herself, which was unreasonable. Well, she lost a husband, children, and a home because of that. I hope she found what she was looking for. I certainly did. Laura, I was running some errands over the weekend and saw Jason with his new partner and the girls, along with her daughter. They were laughing and clearly having fun. The kids enjoyed ice cream as they walked, while Jason and his partner were holding hands. I wish I could be with Jason. Why does life have to be so hard? I don't really know. I made some choices, and I didn't think Jason would mind what I was doing. Scott asked me to move out, and we aren't together anymore. I miss him. I miss the kids, and I miss Jason. I miss being near him, his smile, and having him with me at night.